says to a guy in rural America who's working on a blog that you can use the internet the same way that the New York Times can use that internet. That we're not going to have discrimination on what is clearly one of the important economic engines of the 21st century.
It's completely inaccurate.
Instead, critics say it will only regulate baseline internet service providers, but not web giants like Google and Amazon.
So is it for the public interest, or is it picking winners and losers in the marketplace, with the winners just happen to be allies of the president?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, net neutrality, and there's all kinds of stories going around, and we were going right to the source now to find out exactly what President Obama is thinking about here and what the results might mean for all of us. And joining us now, once again, is Ajit Pai, FCC Commissioner appointed by President Obama. Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. All right, so how concerned should we be about this net neutrality? What is it going to mean in its current proposed form?
Well, first and foremost, you should be concerned because you don't have access to the plan. Only I and other people in the FCC building do. And I think that it's important for the public to be educated about what is in this plan before the FCC votes on it. But that point aside, I think people should be concerned about the plan itself. It's going to mean billions of dollars in new taxes on broadband for the first time. It's going to mean slower speeds and less broadband options as these complex regulations get put on companies that are already having a difficult time justifying building out to, say, rural America. It's going to mean a bonus for the trial lawyers who are going to they'll be able to sue at the FCC or in federal court for any sorts of real or hypothetical harms. And I think also additionally, it's going to lead to less competition, and ultimately, none of these things is good for the American consumer. And both for process and substance reasons, I've been speaking out on Twitter and on the airwaves as best I can.
Yeah, no, and you've been doing a very good job in raising the alarm. So, what's the likelihood? First of all, before I get to other issues on this, what's the likelihood of this passing?
Well, unfortunately, it looks like the cake has been baked. The president gave his direction to the FCC back in early November, and lo and behold, the FCC majority has put together President Obama's plan for internet regulation and looks to be poised to pass it on a 3-2 vote. So, nonetheless, I'm going to keep trying to fight the good fight as best I can, and then afterward, working with members of Congress and the American public to see what can be done to limit the damage.
And you believe that this is an alarmingly unprecedented direct involvement by the executive branch into what you guys do, what your commission does, correct?
It is. Historically, all the way back to its inception in 1934, the FCC has been an independent agency, and that means that people look to us to render our expert, objective judgment about these complicated technical questions. But when you have a politician shortly after the midterm elections deciding to direct the agency to do X, Y, and Z, and telling us he wants us to use a particular legal theory to do it, you're in uncharted territory, at least in my experience. And I think compromising the independence of the agency is bad enough, but especially when it involves government control of the internet, that's just a dangerous thing, dangerous road for us to travel on.
All right, now let's talk about bloggers, and let's talk about, I read stories of regulating blogs and regulating content, and how realistic is that?
I think one of the things that we see is that free speech isn't just a constitutional right, it's also a culture, a cultural commitment. And I think we see over at the Federal Election Commission, for example, some people over there want to regulate things like the Drudge Report or other political speech online because they think it affects elections. I mean, it's not a give. The First Amendment is not a self-executing promise, and I think it's important for people, both in elected office, at administrative agencies, and in the public, to make clear that free speech, especially on the internet, has to remain protected.
Yeah, well, this is such an important issue. Is there anything we could do as a public before this gets voted in?
Well, unfortunately, it looks like the FCC is going to adopt it without making this document public. But that said, if your listeners want to follow me at Ajit Pai FCC, AJIT PAI FCC, I'll keep putting information out there as I learn about it. In the meantime, contact your elected representatives and let them know that the agency needs to be transparent and that we need to focus on broadband competition, not government regulation, as a solution to these problems.
Mr. Commissioner, thank you so much. We'll speak to you again, sir. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, up next, ladies and gentlemen, a former chopper pilot in the U.S. Army, Amber Smith, will join us. Don't you go away.